Welcome to Airbnb Success. My name is Trang Nguyen, and today we're going to Model 7 in our training, which is the last models of the training as well. Therefore, we're going to discuss about anything involved in taking your Airbnb business to the next level, going the extra mile to create a superb, excellent, wonderful service. In exchange, you will receive loads and loads of money. Money could, which the money could free most of your time. So you can do what you love, and you can also develop it as one of the off-site business for yourself and your family. Okay, let's get into it. So in Module 7, we're going to discuss about how to create a guest-friendly space, which we're gonna again talk about the bathroom because that is the most important things for your guests. And then I will give you some tips and tricks of how to use tower license or what is the best one, how to keep them durable, um, and keep the whole property work functionally. Um, then we're going to discuss in detail about the optimal pricing strategies. We have already discussed about pricing in the previous models, but in this one I will give you some example and we will drill down in detail of what will be the cost, what will be the minimum you should and the maximum that you can set for your place. Okay, so when you can set those price, the maximum price, and when you can set the minimum price, and instead of renting it for too low, good it's worth it, just leave it empty so you don't have to deal with gas and cleaning. Yeah, so we will answer those questions later on. And then I will also discuss about any extra things such as what actually involved in the how to customize the guidebook, what you should include in it from um, house, yeah, what is it in your house, apartment, or any practical details. And then we can also looking at how to hook your Airbnb calendars and how to get yourself out there and get more guests looking at your listings rather than just rely only on Airbnb listings, rather than just rely only for Airbnb to up your listing for you. Okay, let's get into it. First, let's talk about how we can create a guest-friendly space, guest-friendly environment. The most important things is the bedroom, of course, but then the other important one is the bathroom, because as this is the place where the guests, where the people taking off their clothes. So it is very sensitive environment. If you have any glass window, you got to have a proper curtain, especially if your window actually facing toward your neighbor. Um, and the bathroom must be immaculate. So remember, the standard you are competing against is a luxury hotel. And think about it. When is the last time you checked into a five-star hotel and saw a single piece of dirt in the bathroom? Okay. So the baseline standard is you got to be very, very as clean as a standard luxury hotel. So every day you got to remove all the dust and all the dirt out, especially in the sink. Do not leave any hair or hair dryer or any bluff or anything at all in the sink, because it's white color, right? Unless your sink is in a darker color. And around the tap, you got to clean it as squeaky as possible, because if the gas sees the hot water and stand around the tap, they still consider it is not being clean at all. Okay. And then you got the toilet. It must be scrubbed to perfection. So your sink must be free of all particulate, and your shower must not have any inkling of mildews. And that is your baseline standard. For the guests who are very, very clean themselves, having a moderate clean bathroom can ruin their entire stay. So the bathroom is a very, very intimate space, yeah? And people must feel secure and safe while using your bathroom facility. Although a small tip, your cleaning stuff had to be tidy up and hidden in one place. If it cannot be hidden, then please keep them clean as well and keep them tidy in one corner. So that's in my tip for the bathroom itself. Um, so let's moving on. Which is the best towels and linen to you? Would it be color one? Would it be white? I mean, depend on your standard and what you set for your place. If your place is one of the you want to give guests some of the funky experience, a different type of household experience, family's house experience, then it's fine to use color towel and color linen. But as most of all the professional or all the experienced hosts will tell you, is best to use white towel and white linen. Why? Because it's reflect professionals, right? Have you ever used any hotel that actually have color towel? Not at all. Okay, colored towel may give the guest the feeling of homey, but sometimes it reflects as tacky and not very clean, especially the towel that you've been using over and over again, and they get very, very hard. You know, those are not good at all. You better just give them to charity and buy the new ones, so you can, so the guests can appreciate more and they give you better review. Okay. So don't go cheap on your towel and linens, because the difference between a, a part listings and an average one could be about £50 a night, and you don't know which one you're gonna fall into. So you be better prepared for the best. And count on the towel attrition as well. You got to order them regularly and stockpile them every 3 to 6 months. Or you can do it every 6 to 12 months if you actually invest in a good towers. Okay. If you go cheap on tower, it will end up costing you more, because you will have to spend time replacing them, or you have to spend time and effort to make them as clean and as soft as they should be when you just first bought them. Okay. And the white color is harder to keep clean, but then it's always give the guest the feeling of professional and cleanliness, and they are sure that there's the towel wasn't been used before. Yeah. Okay, so for the guests who pay higher price, they always expect better sheets, better towel, better linen. If you actually opt for color towel and color sheet, I highly recommend to go for red, either red color or navy color. I mean, red and navy is the best choice of all, because if the guests, if it's a female guest and they was in their monthly things, and they got pill on your bed, then at least it's not so visible. And when you leave, exactly if the guest actually stay there for a few days and it's got the stain on it, after you wash, is if you wash it with the white, if it's a white color, you got to wash it very careful, and maybe a few times before you can get it clean. But with the red, it doesn't. You can wash it once and the the dirt, the things color gonna go away, but the stain is also not gonna be there. Let's move into part 2. In this part, we will discuss deeply the inside of the optimal pricing strategies. So when you attempt to achieve a success in Airbnb business, you got to create an awesome listings based on the baseline of Airbnb requirement, right? And once your listing is finalized, your guests, to market to your guests is the next step. So the goal of the solid marketing is to make your listing look amazing and display your listing to as many potential guests as possible, right? But the sandwich between the two steps is critical question that must be answered with great care. How much should these listings cost? How much should you price your place? Okay. This is actually a more complex question than you might think. Yes, we have done the research. We have decided what type of price we should have for our place, which in the range that we think it should be. Okay. But what actually should be the price for different day, different month, or different season of the year? And which price will give you the most possible revenue as much as possible? Okay. If anyone studying economics, they're gonna tell you about the basic price setting strategies. And one of those strategies will be set the price based on cost. For example, if you buy an item of £3, it makes sense to sell it at £3.30. Yeah, and that's a 10% profit per item sold. Sound reasonable, right? But there's another approach. You could also look at the competitor, at what is the competitor to charge for their price, for their products, and then create the price based on that information. And then there's the another approach to this, that you could set the price according to the maximum amount that consumer would pay for your products. Yeah, and that also makes sense. So what is the right approach, and moreover, how do you go about determining the cost to compare the products and the actual amount that people are willing to pay for your products, right? So these are a little bit difficult question to answer, and the best strategy will different from product to product and across the industry. But let's apply it in our Airbnb listings, right? The optimal pricing strategy for a particular listing will depend on the luxuriousness, the location, the overall appeal of your space. And finding the best strategy isn't easy. This will require a great deal of experiments. Okay, so although choosing the right price seems to be daunting as first, based on what I'm saying, I will show you in this section, in this part, I will show you exactly how you can determine what is the minimum price you should set and what is the maximum price you should set in order to get the most for your money. Okay. In finding an optimal pricing strategy, this is not easy, but in fact, it's not even mathematical possible. No, there is simply too many unpredictable and unknown variables to identify all the factor and criteria in this. But if you follow my guidance, you will next. If you follow this guidance effectively, efficiently as possible, you can craft the price that works best for you. And I will help you to unlock your optimal price point. But anyway, you got to put it in experiment, trial, and error. Yeah. And you will eventually find a solid pricing strategy for yourself. Okay. First thing first, what is an optimal pricing that we've been talking about for the last 5 minutes? Okay. The definition I am using is pricing a strategy that maximizing your profit in the long run. Yeah, you don't need an academic degree to understand this concept. It literally means that the strategy that make you the most cash, the most money. Yeah, and before we go into this, let's start off with some basic theory about profit. Okay, first off, the profit is the equal the revenues minus total costs. The revenue is the money that Airbnb will pay you on behalf of your guests, and the total costs are the amount of money you expend on behalf of your listings. So the total cost can be subdivided into two parts: fixed costs and marginal costs. Okay, so fixed costs are expense that are not depend on the amount of days your place occupied, and you will incur these costs regardless of reservation of the number of guests. So, for example, the fixed costs for your listings are mortgage plus property tax plus rent plus building maintenance plus condominium fees and plus TV internet subscription. Okay, so the marginal cost as the expense that will be incurred based on the uses of this activity of these fixed costs, yeah, and the number of guests increase, the marginal cost will increase as well. So, for example, the fixed costs are electricity bill, gas bill, water bill, and management costs. So, so within this, the management cost is actually include everything that must be paid to organize your guest stay at your place. For example, the cleaning, management, check-in, check-out, and any supplies for your listings or any other online stuff that you pay. Okay, in order to get the guest book your place. So if you hire someone to fulfill this role, the cost is whatever you pay for that person. And if you tend to do this task by yourself, then you got to calculate this value according to your opportunity cost, such as how much money you would have made doing something else during the same time. Yeah, so if you charge your guests an extra cleaning fee, then the cleaning costs drop out of the equation. Okay, and although your fixed costs partly define the profit, they shouldn't influence your pricing strategy. This is because your fixed costs are given and they are not dependent on the amount of days you rent your place out. Okay, so this means that the optimal pricing strategies is dependent on the fixed cost. Put it in a basic word that whether the less you rent your property out on no, put it in a simple word that is it better for you to rent out your space than leaving it empty. Okay, let's look at it example. Let's assume that you rent out your space full time, yeah, and have no other use for it. In other words, you don't gain anything if it's empty. Okay, let's say the fixed costs are mortgage £1,000, internet £100, insurance £50, maintenance £200, and tax are about £150. Routine maintenance is £200. So the total fixed cost you will have about £1,500. And then if you divide it to 30 days a month, then you got £50 a day. Okay, so that's the fixed cost. The fixed cost, £50 a day. Let's look at that marginal cost, and we also assume that your space is occupied fully, right? Okay, so the electricity, water, gas, all the bills is about £300, and then on the cost for supply is £300, and management cost is £150. You got all the maintenance, let's say £150 as well. So that's in total is £900 per month. Yeah, and then divide to 30 days a month, you got £30 a day. Okay, now considering the following option. Number one, you rent out your space for £40 for a particular date. And number two, your place is unoccupied. So let's compare option one and option two, right? So at option one, if you rent out your place for £40 a day, and you technically won't putting in any money in your bank account. Why? Because you're actually spending £50 alone in the fixed cost, and talking to guests will drop you another £30 in the hole for that day, bringing the grand total of expenditure to £80. That means for that particular day you lose £40. Okay, so option one, you lose £40. Let's look at it. Option two, whereas you don't rent out your place at all and leave it empty, to see if there's anything any better. Okay, so if you leave your house empty, you don't incur any marginal cost, but you still pay the fixed cost of £50 a day, and that's total expenditure of £50. So this leads us to the conclusion that although option one leaves you at a loss, it is better. Is it actually better than option two, right? So we got to say that as long as your price is higher than your marginal cost, you are better off renting your space out than leaving it empty. Okay, so do remember this, because we're gonna go through few other example later on, which will prove that this is the right and righteous sentence. Yeah. So as long as your price is higher than your cost, yeah, you're better off renting your space than leaving it empty. So don't think that, okay, the price is actually too low, my place should be £200 a night, but if I just rent for someone today for £50, I really don't want to, because actually it takes a lot of work, and I'm staying far away, I don't want to come back to meet them, etc., and you don't want to rent it out. No. Do rent it out and pay for order to check it in for you. Okay, so this means that the lowest price you should accept is equal to your marginal cost, right? So in this case, it's £30, and this is the lowest bound of the price range for any given date. And even though you are making no money at this point, you are still getting the benefit of rating and reviews from your guests, which will lead to more booking in the future. Imagine that, right? If you have a place, a very, very good place, and then the first few guests come, and you actually giving them a significant reduced price, how glad they are and how good they're gonna praise you after they leave, right? And later on, the guests who book your place and stay later on in the future, they don't know how much those guests paid. They don't know. They will think that those guests actually pay the same price as them, and happy, and think your place is value for money. Then the future guests will happily book it just because of those reviews. So there's no loss for you at all. Now, let's say you can successfully rent your space for £30 per day, but you decide that £10 per day of net profit, so 40 minus £30, okay? So isn't it worth your time? You think it's not, right? Fair enough. But what profit margin will satisfy you, huh? £20, £30? Determine what value suits your fancy and readjust it. Readjust it. Okay. Readjust your management cost. For example, if the minimum you are willing to accept is £30 per day, your management cost will move from £5 to £35 per day, and the lower bound of your price now shifts to £60. Okay. Now that we have figured out how to identify the lower bound, let's address the far more complex problem. What is the maximum price a potential guest might pay for you? So what does this price depend on? And to answer this question, I must assume the perspective of my potential guest. You could do the same. You got to assume the perspective of your potential guest. And how does the decision-making process work for a guest standpoint? Okay, first, you got to presume that your imaginary guests have made the decision to stay in your neighborhood. Okay, and they go to book your place. But then when contemplating an optimal price for these guests, you will got to consider the price of the best alternative to your house. So if your neighbor has a similar house and is available for £100 a night, no reason the guest will pay for £200 for your space. However, would this imaginary set of guests pay £130? Pay Would this imaginary set of guests pay £130 or £120? Possibly. There could be a difference that distinguishes with the guest's personal tastes or preferences. So assuming they have the money to spend and these guests might pay a slight premium to enjoy the pleasant color of the wall, the arrangement of your living room, or the high-end coffee machine in your kitchen. Okay, so your maximum price is actually equal to the price of the best alternative in your neighborhood, plus a certain margin to allow for personal preferences. Okay, so you're asking me, what is this magical margin? Right, that's a good question. The reality that you won't be able to determine that margin right anyway. The only way to decide this golden number is via experimentation. So you must put on a scientist hat, not a hot horse hat, and engage in the price setting experiments. And it is your job to monitor the price anyway. So you set the price and the corresponding guests. You set the price and the corresponding request for your guests. Okay, let's assume that after reviewing a number of listings, you conclude that the best alternative cost is £200, right? Let's further assume that you decide to add a 20% margin on top, which will give you a maximum price of £250. Okay, now you have a price range of your space for the minimum £30 and the maximum £250. Okay, the next question is, how do you choose a price within the range for any given point in time? Right, recognize that the price will vary considering where you are in the timeline. Okay, let's consider a few points in time. You are 90 days away from the booking date. Okay, it makes sense to the price your place at £215 for this time range, and the goal is to give potential guests who are willing to pay the maximum price a lengthy time frame in which for them to make reservation. And since you have over 12 weeks to find a guest, losing a booking due to a high price is less worse. Okay, and what happens if you go closer to the current date? And as the booking days come closer to the present date, the probability of finding the guests who are willing to pay the maximum price will decrease. So this will increase the chance that your place will be left empty, which, as we already discussed earlier, isn't a good option at all. Okay, so it makes sense to lower your price as it gets closer to the current day. And based on theories, that is as your risk level of vacancy increase, you should properly reduce the price to reduce the risk. So this price will continue to drop from £250 all the way down to your lowest price of £30. Okay, let's say we are actually 1 week from the current date, and over the last 11 weeks, you have lowered your price down from £250 to £100. But you still haven't found any guests. Oh my dear. Since there is a very little time left and the risk of your space being unused is relatively high, you want to apply a drastic price cut and reduce the nightly rate to £75 a night. And then 1 day from the current date, you have almost no time left to find any guests. And at this point, you got to go back to the sayings at the beginning. At your lowest price ever, you can set the minimum of £30. So this brings us to the conclusion that you should apply your maximum price point for far-off check-in days, and as the check-in days approach the current day, the price should be lower up until the minimum price point. So how long in advance should you start lowering your price from the maximum? Okay, once again, we only experiment this in order to find the answer, okay? So it will be different from listing to listings. And based on my experience, I recommend using 3 months as the upper bound for your test date. Okay, and even if you rent out your space for £30, you are still better off in the long run anyway. Because look at this, a potential future profit will result from your guest review and rating that you have today, and it will accumulate, right? And as Airbnb take all the reviews and rating into consideration of pushing your listing up, you will be benefit of all of it. And on top of that, the previous guests may return at later time and recommend your space to other people as well. So when you begin your Airbnb career, it makes sense to rent your space for a price near the marginal cost. And this is because the reviews are especially valuable and impactful as the first stage. So for example, 1 review versus no review is a very substantial difference when the guests look in a particular listings, whereas later on down the line, 21 review versus 120 review is not as much different, right? So we can say that the fewer reviews you have, the more aggressive you should lower your price as the check-in date draw closer to the current date. Let's do an experiment. Based on all the information about learning about the premium margin that you can charge, is we check dedicated and practice and observation analysis and experiments on your listings. All right, so let's check an example. Let's say it's a January and your maximum price is £250. Okay, for April and beyond, you got to set 1 week at £300 and another week at £275 and another one at £250. The last one will be £225. And observe your booking and record all the data as possible to create an Excel spreadsheet to keep track of what point in time the booking are made and at what price. And after enough practice, you will identify the pattern and master your strategy. Okay, with new listings, When you are just starting out, your main priority should be that you got to build your reputation within the Airbnb community and then improving your listing visibility in the search result. Okay, and if you focus on these two priorities, you will maximize your long-term income. As I already said, you should be willing to accept very, very low price earlier on. The focus should be on trying to get as many bookings as possible to build your reputation. So now, if you are pricing your space very low, considerably lower than your comparable space, you should include a reason for the low price in your description, right? Because you can't just give it for nothing and the guests probably have a suspicion if your place look magnificent and you give them a very, very low price. There would be a big question there. So you can do a trick like that. You can set something like this on the title: 30% discount this month only for my first 10 guests, right? So if you don't offer an explanation, people might assume that there is something wrong with your home. Okay. And based on all of these price that we established for the minimum and the maximum, you got to also considering adjusting the price to match the fluctuation demand. So every city in the world had a high season and low season for tourists, and people love to travel to Europe city in the summer, a tropical region in the winter, and all the cultural vibrant locations during seasonal festival and celebration. And as the demand, you should take notice and adjust your price accordingly. Personally, I maintain three-season pricing schedule for my place. You got low season, which is around November to February, and then medium seasons, which is between March until May and September to October. And the highest season with the most money you can earn is between June, July, and August. Okay, the price I use for the low seasons are about 60%, and then medium season about 80% and 100% for the high season. All right. For peak period, you got to um, realize the demand deviation that occur during special holidays such as Christmas, New Year, Easter, and also we look out for the large corporate conference that take place in nearby convention center. Okay, so because this kinds of conference actually attract a large number of people come over to your place, your area, your neighborhood, or the business people will start looking to spend some serious money on their accommodation. And more importantly, the hotel will likely to be overbooked and overpriced, making it very pleasant for your Airbnb rental. Okay. And depending on the event, you might be able to earn double the normal price or even more. And an excellent way to get the demand is to search for the hotel on a major booking site, such as booking.com, and then you can determine the percentage of the full, those hotels fully booked. For example, the booking.com, they normally display the number of available hotels immediately after a search. And you can also find seasonal information from local tourist company. So they can give you an idea of hotel price fluctuation and crowd drawing event. And make sure to adjust the price for special dates well in advance, and usually a year before the event even takes place. And for high traffic conference or popular event, people tend to make booking quite early. And that is the best for you if you already expect it to happen. Okay, prepare for it. How about weekday and weekends? Some people told me it doesn't make any difference, but another thing to consider is whether your area is busiest during the week or the weekend. The business area are usually highly demand through Monday and Friday for accommodation, and whereas the post neighborhood or region that are um, having all the nightlife options are typically most popular on the weekend. So consider the change of your neighborhood and then adjust your price accordingly. In my area, for example, it's very popular among young tourists, so I tend to set my weekend about 20 to 30 above the weekday. Um, okay, so but you got to test all of this out in order to determine should you be able to increase your weekly price or not. Yeah, and weekly or monthly pricings uh, as well. So Airbnb will give you the option to set your weekly and monthly pricings in your listing, okay? So you can use this setting to give an automatic discount for the guests who stay, let's say, more than a week. And I recommend offering a weekly price as about 10 to 15% discount because you will save more due to less frequent cleaning, lower general management costs, and reduced liability from having a lower volume of guests. So there are two options for setting a weekly price. One is the general price and second is custom price. I would highly recommend you to use the custom price option so that you can still factor in all the high season or the special event around your area. And if you don't, Airbnb will set all the week to the same standard weekly price regardless of demand, which won't be benefits for you at all. And so do testing all of these out. They are just my recommendations and my experience. I don't, for most of my place, I don't actually set the weekly price and the weekend price. Um, but some other particular place I have, I do them. And then the weekly or the monthly pricings, I don't actually do it at all because I'm just it's my reason is that if the guests can look for a long-term stay, they would just be a normal tenant renting a six to 12 month basis. Otherwise, if they're actually looking for short-term stay or in transition and they're willing to go for my place, then they just pay for as many days as they want. 100 days, 200 days. Let's moving on to part one. In this part, I will show you about how to custom your guidebook. What is the cut next? In this part, I will show you all the extra tips and tricks to improve the quality of your place. Um, and one of that is making a guidebook. Okay, if you notice and looking into all the experienced horse, mostly all the super horse, they tend to have their guidebook around their space in their listings or the picture that they take, which a guideline standard is all over their place. And those actually benefit for guests and benefits for your communication with guests. It shows them that you actually care and you are a host that will be accommodate them as much as you can. Okay, and they guests normally appreciate it more when they see you actually prepare the guidebook for them as well. So you can create a booklet that gives off all the information about the apartment, the city, the area, and what to do in case of emergency. You can also have a guestbook function, so include the rules of the house, how things work on the Wi-Fi, password, etc. It's good in case you forget to tell them all these things, they can just looking in the guidebook instead of calling you, texting you, message you just for a bit of information where they can just reach their hand to. And it will make sure every guest had the same information as well. The guidebook is the opportunity for you to add your personal touch and to create um, a connection between you and your guests. So you can include the instruction for the neighborhood in your guidebook, where to find the appliance, knick-knack in your house, and all the favorable local activity, all the special nightlife spot, restaurants, museum, etc. Okay. So once the reservation has been booked, you got to send your guidebook over to the guest, and I do this under the PDF file. So just put after you done the guidebook, just convert it to the PDF copy and send it to guests who book your place. On top of it, you can print out 2 to 3 copies and place them in the living room area, the kitchen area, or the bedroom, depending on which place in your space that you think the guests will spend most of the time on. And the more professional it looks, the better. Feel free to add color and space divider, but bear in mind that these guidebooks usually have short lifespan as they are subject to reasonable amount of wear and tear if there's will be a lot of people checking into your place and using it, okay? So the guidebook should contain at least 3 sections, and these are the house, apartment section, the neighborhood section, practical information, okay? The value of the local advice is unparalleled. So, however, let's put yourself in the shoe of the guest. Would you be appreciated if you go to the place and the guest recommend you every single things in their local area, any bad things that you should avoid, and any good thing you should go into, or you should do any good activity, or any things that only the local people know? Could you be appreciated? You would try. So the same apply to your guests or travelers. They will appreciate it a lot if for any opportunity to lean toward the guidance of a native, the local person. So again, please take advantage of this wonderful opportunity uh, to put it in the guidebook and create a powerful tool for yourself. It will not only be highly useful, but it will be likely to be appreciated by your guests in form of positive review on your listings. Okay, so one should include in each section for the house and apartment. You should explain the basic layout of your space. On top of this is a great opportunity to walk your guests through the operation of your appliance. Again, don't assume that your gadgets are as intuitive as you might imagine. You might work your coffee machine just by one finger and close your eyes, using the blenders with 2, 3 fingers. Okay, with the guests who first time come to your place haven't been used it before, and they can be confusing about how to turn it on, how to put the coffee ground in. Well, without the access to our instruction manual, they wouldn't know. And that's all item included in this proportion of the house and apartment guidebook, as include electricity, television, heating, keys, shower, kitchens, cooking, garbage, laundry, smoking, noise, party, parkings, checklist for the checkouts. Okay. Um, don't worry about writing all of this down, because you will see my guidebook. I will have my guidebook attached, and you can see exactly how I lay out the guidebook and how my guidebook lies. So you can doing the same for your space, and you can add in more information if you like. Okay. For the neighborhood, there's your chance to provide what wonderful local insight you have. So you will For example, your frequent bar, restaurant, your favorite restaurant, and cafe that you've been in for years. And the thing is, you are the expert of your city, so put all of that expert information in the guidebook. Yeah. So this is the opportunity to share your valuable insight with knowledge to the thirsty newcomer. And if you want to provide really stellar service, I highly recommend making a list of cool attractions or restaurants with an accompanying photo or an address or map, screenshot, even better, and with a link to the menu. Okay, and any day time to visit particular place. Right. So all items include in the neighborhood should be restaurant, pub, um, bar, taxi number, local transport location, a popular shopping center, a nearby grocery store, and any pharmacy, tourist attraction around. Okay. For the practical information, the intent and purpose of this is to fill up all the miscellaneous section. Okay. Is a catch-all for pieces of random information that might come in handy for your guests. So you can include things like what do you do in case of emergency, or information about medical service, or who to contact in case of apartment-related problem, and how to have a late night food delivered to your place. So once you have the guidebook for your guests and have all of your listing done up and the price ready, what you got to do in the long term to keep the maintenance and to keep the place as good as the first day that you set it up in 1, 2, 3, 5 years. You got to improve and experiment the whole place. Okay, how to improve your place? That will based on all the guests' question or the query the guest has for your place, and the suggestion that the guest leave for your place on the review, or any complaints that the guests have after they stay at your place. All this can be taken into account so you can improve your space. Let's say, for example, if the guests after stay at your place, they just have a quick on the review, they just write a quick sentence like, "Oh, the mattress is not that comfortable. I wish the mattress could be more comfortable." Why not just spend a bit more money to buy a new mattress, replace it, and then the next guest who benefited will see that review and write the opposite. Oh, the mattress actually very, very comfy. Or you can put it on the listings that you have, then update your mattress. Okay, so all of those will keep you to improve your space and keep it better and keep the next guest coming. Regarding experiments, you can try a new thing every day. Try different things. New thing is good. Change is good. Um, you got to test things out to see what will work for you. For example, you can change the layout in the room, the layout of the bedroom, for example, to see what kind of reaction guests would have when they turn up to your place, and the pictures on your listing the is a bit different from the actual space, not because of things are different, but just because that you move things around a bit. And they might like it, or they might not like it, so they will let you know. Okay, or you can try to give guests discounts if they book today. Let's say you have an empty day today and a guest making a request, you can tell them, okay, I give you 10-30% discount if you book today, if you book now, and then let me know the time that you arrive later. Okay, what you're going to lose from it? Nothing. And the chance likely will be that they will book your place today. So more money in your pocket, I guess. Right. So in terms of attracting the potential guests, we have so many options here. All right. I will show you how to, even if your place have been done up, everything have been dry, and when setting up your listings, okay, I will show you how to go an extra mile to ensure that is your listing being seen by the right people, a great number of people. Okay. And sometimes it's the little creative thing you do that actually help your listing stand apart from others. So here's my 5 of my clever way to get your listing seen by the potential guests. First is create a unique link for your listings. So when you're sharing the content online, I oh, we has been trained to create a special trackable and shortened view link that fit nicely within character and limits and look cleaner to the eyes, right? If you haven't heard about this, you can check out on shortened link. Just put a search on the search engine of shortened link. You're gonna see several pages like bit.ly, bit.do. Google also to have the old shortened link. Make sure you should create the shortened link also help you to track the number of click your listings get when you share it to all the social sites or you advertise your listings. Okay, so why not take a next step, extra step, and create your own unique listings? The second one is you can create business cards or physical flyer. And now that you have your link for your listing, you can share this wherever you like. And one clever way to get the listing seen is to print it up on business card, and you can get the first I don't remember 50 or 100 Vista print business card for free. I think they have offer sometime, so check it out on the net. And this could be as simple as the link, the URL only, and maybe your phone number and a line from a description to entice your visitor. So what you do with this up to you, but you could pass them out to friends, take them to meet up, to a conference with potential guests out of town visitor. Use your imagination and come up with clever place for your card to be seen. And you might also want to check this a step further and print flyer, postcards, and other material to promote your space. So this is my advice is for the people who actually have a lot of listings, or if you're looking into expand your Airbnb business, then this will be good for you to apply it and do it. Okay. You can also be active in the Airbnb group. Okay, Airbnb has a group features that other fellow hosts can communicate on a variety of issues. And why there's many benefits to this, we actually stick to the topic at hand. So by communication with the fellow host, you establish a sense of credibility. And if a neighborhood host has a multiple booking or can't meet the demand, they might look to you to help, and by being active in the community, you generate more awareness of how wonderful your space is, and the more likely you are to gain interest from the group member. And make sure that you talk about it in real life. Don't be on an online person, but be offline as well. Okay, because you so much of the Airbnb experiment happens online, we often forget about the powerful face-to-face communication can be. I always spoken about my Airbnb hosting experience with pride, and of course I always talk about the good things. So you better do talk about all the positive going on, because anyway all the negative you either sorted it out or improve it or create a better experience the next time. So there's no point talk about it, yeah. And when a family or friends ask your question, what news? Be ready to share some information about your latest hosting experience that will encourage them. So in many cases, the person might not have ever heard about Airbnb and will be eager to learn more. And by making this connection, you're actually creating the possibility that this person will share this with their friends, with their relative, and at some point, one of these conversations may lead you to a new booking. Yeah. Right. The last one, the last advice I have is ask the guest to tell their friend. Basically, referral for free. The review process is vital to your success on Airbnb, but some guests may be willing to take things a step further if they connect with you at the first place and actually trust and like you as a host and might even come back later to stay at your place. So when you leave a review for your guests, you may have the option of leaving a message solely for them to see, and this is a wonderful opportunity. Yes, you should give them sincere praise for being good guests. But now is also the time to extend an open invitation and tell them that they are welcome back at your place anytime. And even better, tell them to share the experience with any friend who may need a place to stay in your city. You'll be surprised at how powerful an in-person review by a close friend can really be. Okay? So that is how you can attract your potential guests once your listing get up to, let's say, more than 5. Then you can start to do all of this. Just start today. Just start now. Tell every guest that stay at your place to refer your friend over and talk about it with your family, with your friends, and be active in Airbnb group. Okay, this will help you a lot in the long run. That's it for today sessions, and best of all, you got to enjoy what you're doing, um, improve your service, um, stay well, stay hosting, stay a super host if you can, and it will all pay off for you when you systemize everything. Then you will just work on Airbnb for a couple of hours a day, and the rest of the time you can spend to create more income for yourself, do what you love, spend time with your family, and create another business on site. Okay. Any questions, please send it over and let us know. And if you would like if you would like me to create another short training for any particular things you would like to be covered that haven't been covered so far, then please put in the suggestion and we will look into doing it. Also, do check out every single email that I send over because there's a tip and trick and update information in there. Okay, stay well, stay happy, stay a super host. Bye bye.